biggest impact of your happiness is the quality of the connections you have. I've started a hot chocolate brand. I've done this marketing design agency and I would still get rejected. And I was just thinking, this is just not a right system. The system is almost like a lottery. I think we have won the lottery on life. If you're listening to this right now, right, you're probably in the top 1% of global wealth. Most people in the world does not have that.
Jared is the founder of Fellow Humans, a global community and movement helping people make real life connections in over 20 cities.
So Fellow Humans is a brand that hosts meetups and events for people in different cities in the world to make friends in real life. I literally just wanted to bring people together. I think quite often great things are built in the dark and then people announce they've got this business and we're like, where'd that come from?
One truth about business people rarely said out loud.
I think.
Welcome back to Focus on Founders. I'm Matthew Adams. This is a podcast where we go beyond the highlight reel and find out what it's actually like to be a business owner. Today, I'm here with
Jared Keir.
And Jared is the founder of Fellow Humans, a global community movement helping people make real life connections in over 20 cities. This didn't start as a business idea. It was rejection, travel, existential reflection, and a belief that there can be something done better. You aren't building an app, you're building a community, a place where strangers can meet new people and build real friendships. It's really exciting, and I can't wait to hear more about it. But let's start with the Fast Fire Founder, okay?
Yes, I'm ready.
So it's 9 questions, Jared. Don't think about it, just the first thing that comes to mind.
Yep.
Okay, let's go. When was the last time you thought about calling it quits?
Oh, that's a good question. 2 weeks ago, probably.
The most random place you've took a business call?
On a bench on an island in the Philippines.
Early riser or night owl?
I'm an early riser.
One truth about business people rarely said out loud.
You are who you surround yourself with.
A quote or phrase that you actually live by.
When you came into the world, you cried while the world rejoiced. Live your life in such a way that when you die, the world cries while you rejoice.
Wow.
That's a good one, yeah.
One app you couldn't run your business without.
WhatsApp, 100%.
Weirdest piece of advice you've ever been given?
It was when I was a waiter and I was getting the drinks, and he said to me, asked for his drinks order, and he said, just don't wait, just start now. And it was just so random in the moment, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
First call when everything's going wrong?
My mum.
And in one sentence, what makes a great founder?
Someone who's joyful and excited about life.
Amazing. That was Fast Fire Founder. Thanks.
That was difficult actually to have concise answers, I would say, yeah.
Perfect. This episode is brought to you by dussl. dussl is a premium, gender-neutral skincare brand founded here in Glasgow by Fraser. It's 5-star rated and recommended by GQ. If you want to grab yourself some of the dussl product range, use code FOCUS15 and that'll get you 15% off the range. Now, let's get into the full story.
Yeah.
So before entrepreneurship was on your mind, what was a young Jared like? What was it like growing up?
I loved growing up. I mean, I come from a small village, just the south side of Glasgow. I have 4 brothers. I'm a triplet. And I would say that in itself is a very unique thing to have. We share our birthday with my mum as well. So it's very interesting. But growing up was very fun. I think often most triplets and twins are compared, but my mum always took a effort to sort of have us in different clothes and really ask us, what do you enjoy, and try to figure out like what we really enjoyed. So I did football for a bit, then I went to singing, and then I went back to football. And so I would say my childhood was just filled with curiosity, and my parents themselves, my dad took the traditional route of working for the government, but my mum was a masseuse and reflexologist, and so she had her own business, and I think that was quite exciting to see her look after us during the day and work during the evening, as opposed to maybe my dad being away all the time during the day when we were kids.
It's interesting, and being a triplet is crazy.
It's crazy.
You talked about there in terms of like comparison wasn't necessarily a thing. Like you had your own identity, like you were different from your brothers.
Yeah.
How much do you think that's impacted like the person you've became like longer term?
Yeah, massively. I think the reality is that when we're younger, we sort of just love, we're followers. I think quite often you want to be liked, and even in primary school, it's like you want to have friends. Everyone wants to have friends. So I think it was important for my parents to instill this sense of like, you're triplets and you happen to be born on the same day, but you are so unique and you have talents and things about you that they don't have. And for us, we compared ourselves, like, everyone at school used to say, oh, the triplets coming out to play, or oh, are you one of the triplets? And I was like, mate, I have a name. So it was quite difficult. But I think if my mum just went along with that and called us triplets and said, oh, and spoke to us in threes, then I think I maybe would be doing what they are. But it was like, nah, Jared, you're unique and you have things to offer the world. I think that also stems from my upbringing. I'm Christian, and I was brought up in a Christian sort of household, and really the belief that like it's not a coincidence that we're here and we all have a part to play in this life, I think was sort of something that has really made me, just do things that are against the grain.
Yeah, and your faith, a big part of who you are, and it's like, I think really shaped, every day still like is a big part of who you are. And like, I wonder how much that's kind of impacted the path that you've took.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was, younger, I was kind of a bit self-centered, used to be very materialistic and think about, the cars that I had, or not the cars that I had, sorry, the cars that I would have, but the clothes I had. And when I was 17, I read a quote in a book that changed my life. And it said, you will find that the true key to happiness is to labor for the happiness of others. And I read that sentence and I thought, if that is true, if that's actually true, if all I have to do to be really happy is to like work for the happiness of others, and then it's going to change my life. And long story short, that's what I did. Tried to implement that into my daily life. And I think that's what the foundation of the businesses I've started have been, is first of all, how can I help other people make an impact, rather than, oh, how do I get nice clothes, or how do I get that nice car that I've always wanted,
Yeah. And I think as we go on to talk about throughout the podcast, is you're very motivated in terms of your business is about like the purpose, and it's purpose first, and that brings the money afterwards. And it's not that reverse approach. And I think it's a really interesting way to look at business, and not something that many people take up on. So I'm excited to go into that a wee bit more later on. You also spoke about their school, like growing up, being kind of categorized with your triplets as a one as opposed to individuals. Like, how did that feel?
It was so annoying, honestly. Like, I think everyone just wants to have their own friends and their own hobbies, and sort of to be put in this box of other people. Although you love them, it was kind of a bit difficult. And so we definitely, I can't speak for them, but we definitely struggled with comparison, and we were compared all the time. And I think that was difficult. It was like we had to break out of it and sort of find ourselves. And it was a process, definitely.
And do you think that's been a real driver for you in terms of starting businesses, and then that's like, there's the differentiation point?
Yeah, maybe. I think I always realized I was creative. I was always curious as a child. I always loved to know random facts. I used to have those Guinness Book of Records books for like every year, I used to love, I was just so fascinated about life. My mum said to me when I was younger, I looked at a flower and I would look at it for like 10 minutes, which now seems like, what was I doing? But and I think my curiosity, and also seeing that like later on in life, a few years later when I was 19, 20, realizing that we only have one life, that combination, it was like, why would I do something that I don't enjoy and follow the conveyor belt that everyone else does? Like, I think we have won the lottery on life. Like, this is the crazy thing. Like, if you're listening to this right now, right, you're probably in the top 1% of global wealth, right? You've probably had an education. You probably have a roof over your head. You have food on your table, and you probably didn't play a part in that. It was the people, your parents or your grandparents, whatever, that had done that for you. And most people in the world, 95% of the world, does not have that. They have to work every day, even as kids, to, provide for themselves. And I just think that if we were to realize the reality of how lucky we are to live where we live, I think we would take more risks and maybe try and stuff ourselves in doing things that we maybe would love. Like, I always meet people that don't like what they do, and I'm always like, but you can change it, like, unless you're really impoverished, which is a reality for some people, and I do understand that. But, I think if you live in the UK, you're more likely than not, and you've been to university, for example, it's like you can change jobs, you can start that side thing, and I think most people should.
And if you were giving that advice to someone, like they're in a job, right, and they don't like it and they want to do something and they see more purpose or more an opportunity that they want to take and they're holding back on that, what would you say to them?
I would say to them, you only have one life. And I think that if you truly understand the sort of like reality of that, you'll see that, like, it's not an overnight thing to build something. And, for example, what I do, I love the foundation of it, but there's many parts of it that I actually don't enjoy. Like all the financial stuff and the accounting, and I couldn't be bothered with that, and I find it really difficult. But I know that there's a massive part that I really do enjoy, and so I think people just, if you've been thinking about doing it, you don't have to make it your main thing straight away. I think quite often great things are built in the dark, and we don't see the grind that some people have been on for months and months and months, and then they suddenly on Instagram announce they've got this business, and we're like, where'd that come from? So yeah, I think it takes courage, and I think you have to have the right people around you, because the right people will encourage and motivate you and help you, and in my case, come to events and support and buy tickets and whatever.
You're naturally quite a outgoing person,
Yeah.
and you're not afraid to necessarily have that conversation with someone that you don't know at all. For someone that's not like that, how do they go about ensuring that they've got the right people around them? Because naturally, sometimes I can think of a few cases where they've got some people have got loving family, they're looked after, they don't go without. They're probably that top 1%, 0.01% of people that you're talking about, but they don't have that entrepreneurial upbringing, and they don't have that sense to take a bit of risk in their life, because it's that safe path. Take the safe path, go get the job, go become a doctor, a lawyer, or one of these like very prestigious careers. Like there's the goal. What would you say, like, how do you reshape that group around you?
Yeah, well, there's a great quote that says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. And so, like, I think if you're seeing yourself in this situation where you're like, I've got good people around me, but I'm not feeling motivated by the people around me, then you really have to have a hope that there is people out there that would motivate you to sort of build what you're doing. And I would say keep the friends that you've got if they're adding to your life. But I think the core reason of business success actually is friendship. And I think it all comes down to connections and friendship. And I'm not talking about networking. I'm talking about the core people that you have around you, because you will become the sum of them. I truly believe that. And so the question you need to ask yourself is, how do I meet these people that are entrepreneurial and that are motivating and that will add and uplift and encourage me in my business? And the answer to that is, well, it's wherever, you have to go to different places. You can't, if you go to the same place, say you work in an office 9 to 5, if you go to that office all the time, you're always going to meet the same people. It's like you have to go to different places. And I would say go to places that you enjoy, go to places that you know that there's going to be a high caliber of people. So go to yoga classes, go to Pilates classes, go to paddle classes, like just start experiencing all these different places and open your mouth and you'll meet people. And not everyone's going to be your friend, but I honestly promise you'll meet people that will change your perspective, that will introduce you to other people. And next thing you know, you'll be looking around and thinking, wow, I've got people around me that are motivating me to become to do my thing more fully or lock in more, or, I think, it's just like, if you don't change anything, like nothing's going to change. It's as simple as that,
Yeah. Growth comes from being uncomfortable.
Yeah, and getting outside your comfort zone. And like, yes, not everyone's an extrovert, but like, I think the reality is, if you don't speak to people, like your situation won't change.
It's great insight. And I think like moving on from that side of things, you weren't necessarily always like a community builder as such. Like before starting Fellow Humans, there was like a whole other lifetime in there. Like you were doing product marketing for different brands, marketing roles. You had another business as well. Like take me back to that. Like you had a hot chocolate brand.
Yeah.
Tell us the story of that. Like how does that?
Yeah. So this is funny actually. I sometimes forget about it because it was so long ago. But when I was 20, I lived in Switzerland for a year, and I read this quote, a few years prior, that said, you'll find that the true key to happiness is to labor for the happiness of others. So I lived that for a few years, and I realized, wow, impact is so important. And that's what the reason that I want to do business is because I want to make an impact. And then I got back and I'm allergic to milk. And I thought, I want to have hot chocolate. And there was just no good plant-based hot chocolates like anywhere. And I looked in the shops and couldn't find anything. And genuinely, I wanted to start something because I wanted to make an impact. And I realized a need. And then I just brought them both together and I thought, okay, there's a need. And that's my need. And I also want to do good. And I can use it as a platform to do good. Let's just bring them both together. So yeah, started in my kitchen, making hot chocolate, and really good. Won a Great Taste Award in 2021. We sold like thousands and thousands of units, nearly got it into co-op, and I was still at uni at the time. And it was beautiful, and I learned so much, and I really made a positive impact on people, because even the way we did the packaging was sort of had a little like PS, remember to love yourself. Kind of cringy when I think about it, but at the time it was doing a bit of good. And yeah, I always just think, why not? Like, why not? What have you got to lose? I thought to myself, I live at home with my parents. I've got nothing to lose. I started with £100 and I never borrowed or asked for money, but I started with £100, remember buying everything. Then I would sell that, and, took student loans out so I could live while I was at uni. And yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of things that came from the hot chocolate experience into what you're doing now with Fellow Humans. One thing that I thought would be good for people listening to learn from your hot chocolate experience was like selling into shops. Like you were talking about, like you were selling into different shops, you were in talks with the co-op to get it in there. Like what does the process look like?
It's tough. I mean, I remember, this is like so funny when I look back on it. only a few years ago, obviously, but I remember I tried to sell into a shop in Glasgow, and they asked me, they're like, "What's your wholesale price?" And I was like, "What's a wholesale price?" I didn't ask them, but I Googled it and I was like, "What's a wholesale price?" And I had no idea that, you sell your product at a sort of lower cost to businesses so that they can sell it for more and they have a margin and stuff. I didn't realize that. And so it was a massive learning curve. I initially started at markets, paid 40 quid for like a wee stall at a market. And then I really just emailed places. I thought, I've got this hot chocolate. Here's a little pitch deck. I learned what a pitch deck was. And I sent emails out and really sent the product to places. And, it would cost me money, obviously, but I thought, why not?
Mhm.
I knew it was a great product. So I was like, why not? And I think going in person to places is just like, in person is always king, in my opinion, unless they live, in a different city, then maybe you should send an email. But I think people really invest in people. And that's what I've realized throughout my business journey. So it's not only about, becoming a better business person, but also a better individual, and like really working on your character and your kindness and your warmth and the way you present yourself. It's really, that's so important, because I could have the best product in the world, but I really do think that it's all about people. Yeah.
100%. And I think that's like what, like, being part of the community, what we're building with Focus on Founders is that community side of things, in person, building real relationships. And that's what ultimately helps business grow and actually take off, is the collaboration side of things. I think it's quite funny actually, in terms of thinking you're going and like not understanding like the wholesale, like looking back. But I think it's also it's such a great takeaway for anyone who's aspiring to start a business and are worried, to just be like, you know what, we'll learn it as we go. Like people will like that to an extent, that, do you know what, I'm figuring things out, I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to put the hard yards in. And I think like looking at your experience, like it's a really good takeaway, because you done well with it. Like it was a success, and it's helped. And that's been like a common theme throughout all the businesses and work and jobs that you've done, is that side of things. You've mentioned to me before, when we discussed previously, like having rejection from jobs, like traveling, and sitting on a beach in Morocco as like really key kind of points across your life. Like talk me through some of these.
Yeah. So, I mean, I remember I was at uni, and, while I was at uni, I was looking for jobs. Matthew and I both studied marketing actually at the same uni. So it was good. And I was looking at jobs during that time, and I used to get so many rejections. And I was like, look, I've started a hot chocolate brand. I've worked, I've done this marketing. I've had my own design agency. I've done all this, and I would still get rejected. And I would see people in my cohort that had been on one internship, or maybe they were the president of the Raspberry Society or whatever, and they would get, jobs. And I was just thinking, this is just not a right system. As in, the system is almost like a lottery, and I don't doubt the people that apply for jobs that get them, it's great for them. But I just thought it motivated me to be like, well, I'm going to do my own thing then. And then you're the ones that are going to be coming to me. So, and that was true in a sense, because, I remember I was applying for jobs at like Oatley and stuff. And then I did the collab with Oatley, which was funny, or stuff like that. And I think that, traveling and seeing the world really opens your eyes to the reality that, like I said a few minutes ago, that really we have one life, and that we literally we've won the lottery on life. Like, we can do whatever we want in a job. Why would we choose something that we don't enjoy, or that we're sitting and we're thinking, I ask people, oh, how was your day? And they're like, oh, I was just at work. I'm like, mate, like,
be excited.
you've got so much, like you've got so much choice, and yeah, I just, I really feel that. And then on the beach in Morocco, I just had this idea.
So when was that? What?
That was December 2023.
Right, okay. Still at uni?
Still at uni.
Okay.
I sat on a bench, or a beach, sorry, in Morocco, and I was with my friend, and I just said to her, wouldn't it be cool to just meet people where you live, and you could just meet them and connect with them, and that would be fun, and there's nothing like it. And I was like, I'm gonna do that. And long story short, that's turned into Fellow Humans, and I started Fellow Humans. But that sort of, I realized the question that I asked, that sort of curiosity actually came from when I was in Vietnam, and I was on the back of a motorbike, and I was going through these mountains, and I was listening to a podcast, and it was about the longest study ever done on humans. And it's called the Harvard Study of Adult Development. It's done by Harvard Medical School. And it's the most fascinating study ever. Essentially, it looked at people for about 70 years, and it interviewed them every single year for about 70 years. So they did brain scans, they interviewed their family members, they did every single year for 70 years, so their whole life, essentially. And the biggest finding of this study is really unbelievable, and I think everyone should know about this. And this is where the curiosity of me starting Fellow Humans started. The biggest finding was that the biggest impact of your happiness, your health, and how long you live is the quality of the connections you have with the people around you, right? Which is just unbelievable if you think about it, that you will, if you have quality connections with people around you, you will live longer, you'll be happier, and you will be healthier. And what's interesting is they could even predict the health of people in their 50s. They could predict what their health would be like in their 70s by looking at the quality of the connections that they had with people around them. And it was the close ties, but also like how they treated strangers and how they interacted with people. And so, listening to that and really realizing that, like, looking at my own life and being like, wow, connection is the joy of life. In Morocco, I was actually a few months later thinking, well, how do I get better connections?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I can go up to people in the street. Is that socially acceptable? I hope one day it is. But unfortunately, it's not at the moment. And so what's the best second option? And that was getting people together in Glasgow.
And what was going through your mind at that point? Because it's quite a thought to have, like sitting on a beach. Like usually people try and switch off at the beach. Like what was going on in your head at that point?
Yeah, I think I always wanted to I want to do good. And I think that, there's probably many people that thought of the light bulb as an idea, but there's only one person that actually attempted to make it happen. And I think the reality for me is that I realized that friendship and connection did bring me a lot of joy, and it took me years to find the right people to be friends with and to have people around me that really uplifted me and I felt really good around, and I realized that every aspect of my life would, benefit from that I felt like I had sort of the responsibility because I had that knowledge to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And because maybe no one else would,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you told me before as well that you feel like you've won the lottery of life.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Why do you wake up every morning feeling like that? Like, is it something that's constantly on your mind? You constantly happy, or you constantly like?
Yeah. Well, I would say I'm very much optimistic. I'm a lover of life. I have a deep sense of gratitude for all that I have. I think it comes from my beliefs that, that there's purpose to why we're here. And I think whatever beliefs you hold, I hope that they're one of positivity, I think your outlook does change the way you see life. You can live up maybe in the same village, but have completely different perspectives and levels of enjoyment in life because you think differently. So, but the reality is the same. So, yeah, I would say I wake up feeling good and optimistic and excited, and just I think that there's so much good in the world, and it's exciting to me that there's people doing things that I think are really boring, but they're really excited about it, and I think it's great for them, and to see people really find what they love, and like just yeah, I mean, it's good to be good, you know. It's good to be positive. It's good to have a spring in your step. Like, you know, they even say the studies that come out that say that people that believe in something, so whether that be a higher power or God or whatever, they are on the happiness test. They're actually happier in life because, you know, they sort of have this view that it's abundant and that, you know, there's always, if you know, annoy someone or whatever or do something wrong, there's always a way forward past that. You can always turn a new leaf, you know.
A quick pause in the episode. Thank our sponsor for today's episode, dussl. dussl is high-performing, multitasking skincare products with no unnecessary steps. It's just exactly what your skincare needs. If you want to try the dussl range today, use Focus15 for 15% off. And you have spoken about it a couple of times, like within that and before, like realising you've only got one shot at life. Where did that come from? When did that come from? Like,
yeah, it's a really good question. I think it comes from realizing maybe my childhood. So, you know, my grandparents died when I was younger, and I remember when I was in high school and primary school, some of my friends' parents died from like a heart attack or whatever. And I think it really I can remember it really affecting me when I was in primary school and in high school, and really thinking about, wow, they had a whole life in front of them. We don't know when we're gonna die. And a lot of people say to me, don't say that. And I'm like, doesn't that make it like, oh, let's live it, you know?
yeah.
And Steve Jobs, even in one of his speeches, he says that the biggest thing that he thinks everyone should know that will motivate them for their life and do them some good is realizing that mortality and we're gonna die and we've only got one life. So I just think the realization, I'm constantly reminding myself, not in a bad way, but if anyone listening to this is really thinking about, if you really think about that, it's like you're obviously going to live your life you're obviously going to choose things that you love more. You're obviously going to spend time with people that you love more. You're obviously going to start that business that you wanted to, but you think you have unlimited time, but you don't. You know, I think it really is a motivator. And I think a lot of people see it as, oh, don't say that. I'm like, mate, it's the truth. You're going to have to face it one time. But I think realizing it now will put you in good stead, yeah.
And where do you find the balance with that? Because I think there's an element of balance where nowadays there's a lot of stuff powered probably by social media in terms of looking at things from the perspective of I should be further ahead than where I am just now. But also that sense of like your life isn't infinite.
Yeah.
How do you balance that? And how, you personally going, this is the one life, this is the one shot, go and do things, make it happen, start the business, spend the time with the people you love, but also not getting caught in that kind of cycle of comparison or feeling behind.
Yeah. It depends what your North Star is, I would say. You know, I believe that joy is in the journey. As in, if you gave me £1 million right now, I wouldn't be any happier. So my happiness is not connected to the amount of money I have or the amount of cities that fellow humans is in. It's really connected to, am I making a difference in people's lives? I think for everyone, it's different. And I would hope that a lot more people have more wholesome and like goals that are related to the impact and the good that they can do rather than how much money the revenue they can make in a year and whatever. I think if it's tied too materialistic goals, I think it's harder to be happy in the journey because, and what happens, I listened to a podcast recently where someone reached that goal and they were like, had the goal of selling their company, and then they reached it and they were like, oh, and they felt really flat. And I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, and so I think that really enjoying the journey, enjoying life, and seeing every win as a win is going to really change how you feel about what you're doing. Like my goal with Fellow Humans is to get it into more cities, but I'm constantly aware of the tens of, actually over 10,000 people that we've helped make friends in different cities. So yeah, obviously I want to push and get, we're in 20 cities right now. I want to get to 50 cities, but I'm like, look, I've already done, and being content about what you're doing, I think it's important. Really, reflecting on the good you've done. Yeah.
I love it. It's very philosophical in terms of the way you think. And I want to now look at Fellow Humans. For anyone listening that's not heard of Fellow Humans, not came across it, what is it?
Yeah, so Fellow Humans is a brand that hosts meetups and events for people in different cities in the world to make friends in real life. So we started in the basement of a cafe in 2024, January 2024, 2 years ago. And I literally just wanted to bring people together, curate an evening, not where you just shove people in a room, but curate an evening where you can get to know cool people where you live, because of sort of the belief that connection is the joy of life and it will make you happier, healthier, and live longer. And so started it in Glasgow. We would do two events a month, and then it basically caught on. And, we started in London and then Manchester and Bristol and Birmingham and Belfast. And
we're going to get 20 cities round off here.
But lots of cities. So it's now in 20. And we also, with that, we match people based on personality tests and send them to coffee shops every Sunday at 11 a.m. in different cities to make friends. And so the whole brand is about, wherever you live, you can meet cool people where you live. And it's curated in a way that facilitates true, deep conversation and connection. Yeah.
It's so exciting. And I've been to the events before as well. I remember the one I went to was yoga and wellness shots.
Yeah.
And it's such a weird thing, right? And I don't mean that offensively, right? But you walk into a room with, apart from I know you, of course, but complete strangers that you've never met before. You don't know their background. You don't know what's gone on before. You don't know what's going to happen after with them, right?
Yeah.
But you get this sense of fulfillment just from talking to these random people and doing whatever the activity is. I think that's a key part is there's always some form of activity that helps the conversation, that helps the relationships and friendships naturally flourish from there. And I don't know, if it's not a conversation starter watching me do a bit of yoga, I don't know what is. So I think it's really exciting, and I encourage anyone that listens to this, if there's one in their city, to go and try it, because it just gives you a weird happiness.
Mate, it's so good. I remember, I think we suffer in 2026, we suffer from, most people do, from social atrophy, which is the inability to sort of speak to people longer than, hi, how are you? And I think that's because, so much of our day and age, we use technology to communicate. And also we don't speak to strangers really on trains or buses or whatever. In Scotland, we do more, by the way. In Scotland, we do more. I don't know if there's any studies on that, but and I think a lot of the sort of social environments that we are in are surrounded with alcohol. So many people, if they're sober, if you actually think about all the social sort of meetups that they're doing when they're younger, a lot of them, there's not a lot of them that will be without alcohol. And so when are they speaking to someone when they're fully there without alcohol is kind of not that often. And therefore, you know, a lot of people are anxious and don't have the confidence. And there's a lot of people that go to events that are nervous. I wouldn't be surprised if you're a confident guy, but you probably were a bit nervous, like going in and speaking to people. But the reason it's so good is because I remember the first event I went to, I left it and I felt like on fire. Like I felt like, I was like, whoa, I need to do another one.
Mm-hmm.
The oxytocin, which is the pleasure, the love hormone it's called, is only, this is the amazing thing actually. So you've got obviously dopamine, which is sort of like short-term pleasure, and serotonin, which is or endorphins when you're running. But oxytocin is a very powerful love hormone, and it only happens when people are, you know, speaking to each other, connected with each other. And yeah, I think it's the reason people feel like that is because when you get people in a room connecting with each other, there's a lot of oxytocin and they're just loving it. And it's like your body is like, yeah, this is great, you know?
Yeah. It's, yeah, I think it's a great concept and I'm happy to see it expanding and more people being able to do it. And 10,000 people is crazy. Like that's so exciting. And there's so many more that to yet to experience it. Take me back, like you've had the idea on the beach, you've spoken to your friend that you're with there at the time. You've then decided, I need to make this happen. What is the first 3 steps that you took in terms of making that possible?
Yeah, so it's important to know, and this is a very important thing, that the reason you should start any business that you think you should start is because you might not realize the benefits it has in the future. So in this case, I thought, okay, I'm going to curate an event where I'm going to get people together and we're going to paint candles and connect with each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, I need a venue. So that's, you know, how do I get a venue? Now, because I ran the hot chocolate brand, I had about 30 cafes in Glasgow that I already had good relationships with. And I knew that some of them would maybe, you know, let me use their space. So I contacted them and they did. And the first one was in the basement of this cafe that actually stocked my hot chocolate, which was funny.
Unreal, full circle.
Exactly, yeah. And then second of all, I thought, okay, you can't just put people in a room. So how do you make it exciting and whatever? I thought, okay, good music, lighting. I curated it really. I did a lot of research to like what makes an evening like people feel really welcoming and welcomed. And it was to do with lighting. It was to do with like round tables. It was to do with putting soft drinks in the middle of a room instead of the end of a room, because then they all congregate around that area. So it's easier for them to speak to each other. Do low lighting because people feel less sort of stressed in low light and they feel like they can sort of speak to people more easier. A lot of research on that. And so I was like, how do I create an environment where people can connect with each other and whatever? And how do I make it cool? Because there's so many speed friendshipping, you know, all these sip and paints, no hate on the sip and paints, but you know, I didn't want it to be another sip and paint. And so I thought, let's do it on film cameras and whatever. And I just brought it together, went on TikTok, 50,000 people saw the video, did the same event like 6 times because it just sold out every time. But, you know, so TikTok was massive help to that. But yeah, I think I studied marketing at the time. So it was like helpful.
Your background.
Yeah.
That's a really key thought in terms of one of those areas there was the research that you done. And I think that's a massive part of business that commonly gets overlooked when people are starting something out. They think, oh, I like clothes, I'll create a t-shirt company. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'll do that. But they don't understand where's the need, where is the market that they're going to take up on. Like, is there statistics, is there studies that shows a requirement or a uniqueness for your brand?
Yeah.
So I think it's a good takeaway is like, if you're looking to start a business, then do the research, like understand it.
Yeah. And it makes massive differences. For example, one of the things that I did was one of the first early events was some hot chocolate evening. And this sounds a bit crazy, maybe a bit too much, like for the first few events, but I read this research that of people, and they basically were welcomed in a building, and the person facilitating the study would give them a cup of coffee, right? And it was either hot or cold. And then they would go up the elevator and they would meet people in a room. And the study was to judge the perceptions that they had of the people in the room. You know, how friendly are they? How kind are they? Are they good people? What's interesting is the study showed that people with the hot cups of coffee thought that the people at the top were much more kind, positive, good. They had more positive things to say about them than the people with the cold cup of coffee. So I used that and was like, okay, let's do hot chocolate. Let's, as soon as people come in, let's give them hot chocolate. Like, that's the first thing they'll get. And it sounds like a ridiculous thing to do, but I think it really does make a difference. Like, all these little things make a massive difference and set you apart from sort of other people. And
That's
you know,
really
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, such
Yeah.
a thought process. And now I'm thinking, is that why the big corporates give us coffee?
Yeah, exactly.
Keep you warm.
Oh, yeah. They found that you know, warmth, like physical warmth, leads to interpersonal warmth, which is like, I mean,
Wow.
it's great. So everyone I meet now, I'm like,
have a
here's
hot chocolate.
chocolate.
I'm nice, trust me.
Yeah.
And with fellow humans, like you said, started in the basement of a cafe. Now it's in 20 cities.
Yeah.
How does it go from 1 to 20?
How does it go from 1 to 20? People, beautiful people that are aligned with what you're doing. You know, I started it essentially in Glasgow, and I thought, oh, this is great and fun. And then I just realized, if people are loving this so much in Glasgow, they'll love it in Edinburgh. And so I went to Edinburgh, I put a TikTok out, and I was like, hey, anyone in Edinburgh want to paint candles and meet each other? And they were like, yeah. And then luckily I just kept putting stuff out and showcasing it. And then Fujifilm reached out and said, hey, do you want to host our event, and your first event in London at Fujifilm? And I was like, yes. So did an event with them, and then it sort of just, I realized I had a confidence about me that the concept that I created would work in other places. And I didn't do any testing to see if it would work. As in, I didn't, before I did it in Bristol, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to have to do market research. And I was like, let's just, if it's worked in these places, it'll work here, And I just sort of went with it and took the risk. And along the way, there's been obviously thousands of people that have came to the events that really have found the value in it. And how are the people that run it?
Sorry. How do you protect the quality of the events across those cities?
It's tough. It's tough. I mean, I used to do them all. I used to go to Glasgow, then London, then Edinburgh, then Manchester in the space of like 2 weeks, and it used to be exhausting. And I realized that, if you want to like build a village, you have to have villagers. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just be the mayor and the postman and the the whatever, the binman as well. So, really finding high quality people that I was confident, not that they would be the best hosts, but rather that they would be the most warm and welcoming people I could find. Mm-hmm. You can teach skills, but I don't think you can really teach like being friendly and welcoming, and that's a character trait that people have. And so to me, it was important to find those people, and luckily I've been able to find them in 20 cities. So some of them I had to throw out, but I'm joking. Some of them, I realized, maybe weren't the right fit for the job, so to say. But
and it's important to realize that early on. And I think there's a lot of people who would maybe come to that situation and struggle to make that decision and be decisive in that, because it's, you can worry about how they might feel about that conversation. How did you do that?
I would say it's a very difficult thing to do, because, I'm doing this for the first time. It's not like I've managed 50 people before. We have about 40 people that host in the different cities. And so, yeah, I would say really slowly and surely. I don't think that it's right to say to someone, "Oh, just let you know, I don't think you're friendly enough." But I think it's right to sort of slowly and surely give them sort of less responsibility and then have a conversation when they see it coming, rather than just suddenly, "Hey." And that's just my way of doing things because I really value people and like the efforts that they give. Sometimes the efforts don't match the sort of outcome. But yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. I don't enjoy it.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And like the it's now a business. It's now
Yeah.
very well established business. Was that always the plan with it? To this idea was a business, or was it more like a movement or something that you wanted because maybe you wanted that yourself? Like,
Yeah, good question. I think I wanted it myself initially. You know, in Glasgow, I went to uni at 21 rather than maybe 18 or whatever. And I just really wanted to make new friends. And, you know, I would go up to people, but I just thought it'd be so much easier with people, you know, meeting at one event. I started it for fun. I started it because, you know, for a passion project. That's what I called it. And it still feels like it is. I mean, it is a business now. And the only reason it's a business is because I have to spend so much time and effort running the business and organizing events in 20 cities and organizing people and partnerships and you name it, whatever the event is, that it takes a full-time job to do it. And so, and if I want to grow it, it takes time and time is money and I need to live. So yeah, I'm lucky that it started as a passion project and is now a business, but I don't see it as a business, you know.
enjoy every
I
day.
enjoy it. Yeah, I just see it as like, oh, I'm having fun and um yeah, I'm helping people make friends,
Yeah.
which I forget about a lot because it's sort of numb to me a little bit. You know, I've hosted myself nearly 100 events, just myself. So it's like when you do that, it's like you become a bit then numb to it and you have to sometimes I take a break from hosting or I don't really host that much anymore, but I'll go back occasionally and then I'll be like, oh,
This is good what
this is
you've
good.
done.
I feel the oxytocin, you know?
And I don't want to be like morbid. I don't know if that's the right word as such, but if fellow humans was to disappear tomorrow, right? What would you want to remain from it?
I would want, as in what I've learned, or
From the experience that people get or the
oh,
lessons that people learn through the experience.
I would want them to know. I have a jacket actually. I'm not wearing it, but or I would show you. It says it's embroidered inside the jacket and it says inside we're all the same. And I think the overarching outcome of all of these events and the whole business is that the people around you are no different to who you are. They all want love. They all want, you know, to be complimented. They all want great people around them. They all love, you know, a Greg sausage roll sometimes or whatever. You know, and so I feel like understanding that everyone needs the same things and we're not that different to the people around us, I think is a realization that will change your life.
Amazing. We're nearly towards the end of our episode. We'll take some questions from the Focus on Founders community. So this is other business owners that want to ask you different questions. We've also put in the socials. So I'm going to answer you a few. Give me your short response to it and let me know what you think. So what since starting your businesses and through the journeys that you've learned, what sort of belief have you completely changed your mind on?
I would say I've changed my mind that you've just got to go for it. And I think it's often said in business that you have to go for it, but reach out to people you don't think you're going to get a response to. Speak to people that you might not hear back from. Honestly, just if you feel like doing something, just send it, because there'll be people that believe in what you're doing, and they'll make it happen. They'll help you make it happen.
Amazing. The next one, what is one lie young founders believe?
That you can build a brand or loyalty quickly. I think it takes time, and you can't fake it, and you have to be really true to your customers or whoever's buying your product or service. There's no shortcuts in loyalty and brand equity and building that. And I think people think it's a quick game, and I don't believe in shortcuts. I think 2 years ago people didn't believe in what I was doing, and now they're like, oh, Jared, it's amazing what you're doing. It's like, it takes time.
Yeah. 100%. And what's one thing you still feel like you're figuring out?
Oh, so many things. I would say I'm still figuring out how best to run my business. I think that there's so much opportunity in front. I think this is the reality of being a business owner, is that you're the business owner. So, there's fewer people to ask. And I wouldn't ask people for advice that aren't really in my field or meet the ambitions if they've not met the ambitions that I want to achieve. So I think figuring out the trajectory and where to start, for example, in this case, where to start events. Do we start it in Australia? Do we go to Asia? Do we focus more on these coffee meetups that we're doing? It's a very hard thing to do, but I just think you have to go with your gut and just get as much information as possible and make a decision and go with it, and not have decision paralysis, and just do it. Just do it,
Just do it.
Nike better sponsor this, mate.
The final question that we finished every episode with is, Jared, when people talk about the work that you've done 10 years from now, what do you hope that they say?
I hope that they say, wow, you really loved people and you wanted them to be happy, and you realized that people just want good friends around them, and you did something about it. I think that's what I want people to say.
Amazing. Jared, thank you very much.
Hey, it's Fraser from dussl here. Before you go, I just wanted to hop on and say a quick thank you for having dussl as part of this podcast, and thanks to Matthew and the Focus on Founders community. dussl was built here in Scotland with a core mission to protect your skin for life. And what that means is small daily habits that add up and make an actual difference to your skin health for the long term. And if you think about it, there's so much noise out there. What we want to do is simplify skincare and make it really easy in steps that are minimal effort for maximum results. If you want to check out dussl, you can do so at dussl.com and use code FOCUS15 for a nice discount. Future you says thanks.
For your honesty, thanks for coming on today and sharing the business journey, sharing all the intricate details as well. For anyone listening and wants to keep up with Jared and fellow humans or follow his journey, all his details will be in the show notes of this episode. If this episode resonated with you, please give it a subscribe and share the episode with someone else that might be thinking about starting something of their own and needs that bit of advice. Thanks, Jared.
Cheers, mate. That's been
great. Until next time.
Until next time. Bye.